moving on to Otonata. There are two suborders of Otonata. The first is called Anisoptera the Dragonflies, and that comes, the word odo comes from otis or tooth. So they have some pretty crazy teeth, and I'll show you why. They are predators, both as adults and as larvae. They're voracious predators as adults, right? They're like the B-52 bomber of the insect world. They zoom around and they can like capture, yellow jackets on the fly and just eat them. They're amazing, right? The same is true for their larvae. They are monstrous. So, and the reason they're monstrous is that they have this crazy lower jaw. There's a video you can watch of this, linked below, that shows this jaw in action, but I'll do it for you. Okay, so basically imagine you're this larvae and you have a mouth, right? Like an insect mouth. Well, your insect mouth not only does this, it does this, right? Like a really big jaw that extends out. And not only that, it can grab things way out here. It can grab something and pull it back into its mouth, and then it can eat it. They're really cool. So their relatives are the Damselflies Zygotra. You can see they're a little bit more slender, both as larvae and as adults. The way you can tell a damselfly from a dragonfly as an adult is that the dragonflies have their wings out, and a damselfly always closes its wings behind its back like this. Dragonflies can't do that. Okay, they are also voracious predators. You can see this lower jaw again extended out. It's crazy. But you can also see that they have these appendages on the back end, which are caudal lamellae that sometimes act as gills. Okay, and dragonflies don't have those. So they're slenderer and they have those caudal filaments, but still voracious predators. And here's Placoptera, the order Placoptera, or stoneflies. Plectos means veined or braided. And that's because of this really strong wing venation that you see in the adult. Okay, so their larvae can be easily confused with mayfly larvae, but the trick is that stoneflies always have two claws, so two pretarsus. And they're mostly predators, but some of them are detritivores. So we don't have as many grazing stoneflies, but there's some really cool stoneflies out there. So first one I'm going to talk about is called Capnia lacustra. It's critically imperiled lake snowfly. And what's crazy is that its adults don't fly, they stay underwater. Both adults and larvae live at over 100 meters deep in Lake Tahoe, California, which is crazy. Okay, I'm going to show you another picture of these guys. Another one is called the Bicoloptera elongata, which also has aquatic adults and is found at over 100 meters depth in Lake Baikal, Siberia. I couldn't find any images of these ones, but what's really cool is Lake Tahoe and Lake Baikal are sister lakes, and I was lucky enough to be a part of the Tahoe Baikal Institute in the year 2000, which was kind of an US and Russia science student exchange program. But at the time, I didn't know about these cool stoneflies, or I would have asked somebody. So here's a picture of Lake Baikal. It's really long. It holds 20% of the world's fresh, unfrozen water. The whole lake is about 400 miles long, which is not quite the length of California, but getting close. And this is a picture of it freezing solid every winter. They actually would lay the train tracks for the Trans-Siberian Railroad across the lake in the wintertime. And here's a picture of this Lake Tahoe stonefly up close. What's crazy is that it gives live birth. You can see all of the larvae, even some larvae like up in its head capsule before it gives birth. And then here you can see the first instar actually developing inside. Those you can see are the eggs starting to develop heads and things. And then here it's laying a full larva, right? It's not laying eggs, it's laying a full larva, which I think is just crazy. Okay. This is my friend Sudeep Chandra. He studies these organisms at Lake Tahoe, and he works at the University of Nevada in Reno. So a couple more cool Placopterans are the Grippoturgidae, and their larvae are actually terrestrial. So these are, again, stoneflies. You can't even see him here because he's covered his body up with sand as camouflage, and they're found both in Patagonia and New Zealand. And Alejandro Vera studies these guys. He published a paper in 2008. This is another cool type of stonefly that you find on glacier ice, and Joe Gersh and his team study these guys in Glacier National Park. So some really cool stoneflies out there. All right, moving on to the last hemimetabolous organism we're going to talk about, the order Hemiptera, the true bugs. Hemi meaning half wing because only part of their wing is membranous. They're mostly predators with piercing, sucking mouth parts, and a lot of them have rowing or swimming or skating legs. Okay, so this is a giant water bug. This is the male. He carries the eggs around. The female oviposits, lays her eggs on the male, and then he protects them until they hatch. This is the Nodonectadae, a back swimmer, has really feathery legs for swimming. And Ageridae is the family of one of the families of water striders. They can make sounds, particularly these guys, and a lot of these organisms can produce venom. Okay, they can also, some of them breathe air and crawl out on land. In fact, giant water bugs are known in the desert Southwest to sense impending flash floods. So if you're ever picnicking by a stream in the desert Southwest and you see giant water beetles running out of the stream and up the hill, you should move because it's very likely a flash flood will come down and ruin your picnic quite quickly. Here is a giant water bug I found in Arizona while I was doing my research, and I kind of caught him in my net along with these two little tiny fish, and I was like, oh cool, I'm gonna watch him for a while. So I put him in this tub, and it immediately ran over, sucked the life out of that fish, and then started eyeing this one. So I quickly dumped them out as I was worried that he was gonna kill this other little fish too. They are voracious predators. And so we can consider them somewhat vampire-like. They can prey even on vertebrates. So things like fish, snakes, and frogs. So here is a fish, a snake, and a frog. Oops. How many of you have heard of Annie Dillard's Pilgrim at Tinker Creek? There's a really cool scene where she's sitting on the creek, just kind of like at one with nature, and then she sees this frog, and then it just like turns into kind of like a deflated balloon of a frog. Well, it turns out one of these guys was sucking the life out of it as she watched.